As you know, I'm a Nikon Z6ii owner. So this video is going to be about testing the ISO in the camera. Now, Eric and I were both camping last weekend, and I had grand plans for doing all sorts of ISO tests. We were going hiking, and then I had planned on setting up the camera at night. In fact, I even shot an intro to this video. Check this out. So Eric and I are here in upstate New York, and we're gonna go to Minnewaska State Park to do some waterfall hiking and photography. So as you can see, we're camping, and if you look over there, that's Eric's new RV that he just bought. So we are both doing this together on this trip. Should be a lot of fun. So we got up early. I'm here by myself. My family is arriving later today, and Eric's here with his wife. And we're going to go do some waterfall photography. In this video, I'm actually going to test out the ISO of the Nikon Z6ii. Say good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, we're going to do a little hiking. So here's the setup. That's just Eric's stuff. Yeah, and later on I'm going to set up the camera with a stationary subject. And as it gets darker, I just want to keep taking the same picture over and over and over again with different ISO settings, and then we can really compare how the camera does, because this camera's been taking amazing images with really high ISOs. So I just want to really put it to the test. Okay, see you on the trail. Once our families got there and we started to hang around, and you know, friends and family and campfires, the weekend just disappeared, and I never got around to making the video. So basically, I did the ISO test here in my house, and the reason I wanted to do this is because I noticed in some of my images, we were in Luray Caverns in Virginia a few weeks back, actually Memorial Day weekend, and it was horrible weather. We thought we'd go to Virginia for Memorial Day, it would be beautiful out. It was not, it was cold, it was rainy. So we went to Luray Caverns, which is, you know, it's a cavern, so you're underground, and the lighting was horrible. It's dark, it's dingy, but the camera performed beautifully, and I was really shocked. And I took this picture of my wife and some family and friends that we were there with. Now this shot's at ISO 51,200, which I thought was amazing. Once my D750 went above 6,400 ISO, the images really weren't usable, and this is a completely usable image. So I'm like, this camera's really, really an improvement over what I have. Now I had heard the sensors are similar, and you know, but this one has the backside illuminated sensor, and apparently it makes a difference. So what I did was I took my little Airstream camper that I have. It's a little metal object, and if you've seen me do ISO tests before, I usually use this. And I set it up on the table behind me, and what I did was I just left the camera on a tripod, and at the same f-stop, I'm at f5. I put the camera in aperture priority so that the shutter speed would adjust as I adjusted the ISO. So the camera didn't move, and I just cranked through all of the images. I went from ISO 100 to ISO, I believe, hold on, I'm gonna look, 204,800. Okay, so that's the ISO range here. And I have to say, when I look at the images, the last two images don't look great, but everything up to 51,200 is really not that bad. So, and I've been noticing that in my shooting. I don't have a lot of images to show you of high ISO portrait shots, but I did have that one that I took in the cavern, which I thought was great. And here are some other images from the caverns also. All of them were at pretty high ISOs. So I was very happy. Some at 40,000, some at 12,000. All of them over 10,000 ISO, and they're usable images. So I was very surprised, and happily surprised. Okay, so let's go through the images. This is the first one. This is at ISO 100. Clean, sharp image like you would expect it to be. The second one, I went up to ISO 400. Then I went up to ISO 800. Then I went up to, this is ISO 1600. This is ISO 3200. Here is 6400, 12,800, 25,600. This one is at 40,000. And you could see in the shadows and, and the background is not smooth anymore. And listen, they're not perfect. But, if the alternative is no image, or so that's what this is great for. I wouldn't use these high ISOs unless I actually needed to. And when you're in an environment where there's nothing else you can do, you don't have a flash with you, there's no ambient light, you really don't have a choice but to rely on your camera. So knowing that with the Nikon Z6ii, I have the ability to shoot in these conditions, it's great. I mean, this is great for parties, indoor events, indoor sporting events, things like that. Really, really impressive. Okay, so after 40,000, this is 51,200. And this to me is the last where I would say it's actually usable. The colors are still pretty good. Now when I go up to 102,000, you can see everything's starting to fall apart a little bit. And that's as expected. But like I said, if you're in an environment where the camera thinks that that's the only thing you can do, you don't have a tripod, there's no other way to shoot, you're handheld, you're in an environment where you can't do anything else, it's there if you need it. Or you just want to get a record of where you are. Maybe it's not the best record, but certainly you're not going to be able to get a picture with your phone in these environments. And then here's the last one. And you can see the colors fall apart here. It's over 200,000 ISO. And it just, it doesn't look great. But so I hope if you're thinking about this camera, or you have it and you haven't tested the ISO, this is a camera that you can very comfortably just put into auto ISO, which is what I did in the caverns. I said to myself, all right, I'm going to let the camera decide. I know I need a certain shutter speed because it's dark in here. I was using my 24 to 70 millimeter f4 lens. So the widest open I could go was f4. It wasn't like I had a 1.2 aperture lens. So I was limited. And I said, all right, I'm going to let the camera decide with the ISO. I'm just going to, let it do its thing. And it worked out really well. I was surprised. Okay, so next week, Eric is going to have a video of us actually hiking around and what we did last weekend, and some waterfall shooting, and just some of the stuff we did last weekend, which is what I had intended to do, but it didn't happen. It was just one of those things where I just couldn't get it together. But this is what I really wanted to do, was just go through the ISO of the camera. Okay, so I'm going to put a couple of videos here about the Nikon Z6ii for you to check out if you're shopping the camera. Maybe I'll put a playlist here, and then I'll put a video about it over here. And you can, just see how my experience has been with the camera. And so far, I'm really loving it. I'm used to the controls now. I'm really loving the touch screen, and it's become all second nature to me. And I will never go back to using a DSLR. The mirrorless cameras are just fantastic, and as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so I will see you in the next video.